Nas. Look at they covered in garlic. That mean that money and flow like a pizza. I get it and split with my partner.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I am here with my co-host Mac, and today we have a very, very special guest for you guys. This is our first interview, so this is going to be really special. A good friend of mine, and I just want to introduce everybody to the podcast. Jordan Miller.
Yeah, what's going on, you guys? I'm so glad to be on.
Yeah.
Finally getting to being on a podcast and being on
Absolutely.
it with my boys. So this is very special. We've been talking about this for a while now.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, this is really good. I'm super excited.
Man, so I just wanted to get right into your story. Tell me a little bit about you getting into fitness because I know you from when we used to work out at LA Fitness and we used to just be like two ships passing by.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about how your fitness journey started.
All right. So when I was growing up, I was into sports. I played baseball throughout like my whole childhood. So played baseball probably from like literally t-ball until right up until 10th grade of high school. So that was kind of like all my fitness was, right? I played like recreational basketball, never played like on a team or anything like that. So I usually just played baseball throughout. And then when I stopped playing baseball, about 20, I would say 15 is when I got into the gym. Me and my oldest brother, well, me and my older brother got into the gym. And we were just trying to, at that point, I guess not didn't really have much direction with it. Was just trying to, I guess, quote unquote, like lose weight, right? You were trying to get into. I never really took lifting serious in baseball, right? Never liked lifting. I grew up overweight, so I was always like an embarrassed kid to work out hard. I think that was my problem growing up, right? I never wanted to look tired or look like I was falling behind because I was bigger. So I was always like embarrassing, right? So then got older, got a little bit more like confidence. I lost weight in like a little bit like in 10th grade just from playing basketball outside and stuff like that, right? And then I got into the gym, so I started going to LA Fitness. And we would go occasionally, maybe like a couple times a week after school and stuff like that. But it wasn't never really anything regimented, right? It was just like you do the regular stuff when you get in the intro, right? You go and you do like a bench press and you may go and do like cardio. I think that was my big thing because my perception on fitness was really like, all right, well, I need to lose weight, so I need to do a lot of cardio, right? So I'm just on the treadmill and I'm walking because obviously not running, and started doing like elliptical and just going around because when you first get into the gym, right, you're just like doing machines, right? You're like just like, okay, let me see how strong I am. And that was another thing too. I felt like growing up, I was a bigger guy and I never wanted to seem weak, right? And I was weak lifting. So it was like one of those things where I was embarrassed to lift because it was like, okay, well, there's this bigger dude, young, looks strong, but like really just weak,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm benching, you know what I mean? It may be a lot for some people, but it's like I'm not even benching a plate, like a 45 plate. So I'm not even benching like 135. And it's just like you would look at me and be like, well, he should be on the football team. That was a big thing that I always grew up was like he should be on the football team and stuff like that. And I always played baseball. So it was like one of them things where I didn't want I guess the conception be that I was weak or
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah, no, I think we all struggle with that at some point. Just the perception of being in a gym and
Hmm.
what it should look like versus like what it is, and that's always an interesting perspective to have. Now, were you always this introspective on yourself? Like when you were in those moments of being in the gym, how did those moments affect you going forward?
So I think I always was like pretty aware of the situation or of like my physical abilities or appearance. Always had like I think I grew up a lot with a lot of insecurities. So I was very aware, but just like I stated before, I was always like scared to address it in that way, right? So then when I got into the gym, it was like one of those things where I like had no direction. I was just trying to go off like what I seen. So you would look around people at the gym and you would just see like what they were doing, and then hopefully it like worked for you.
Yeah.
So then I was always like, just like I said, I was always like should I be doing this? Should I be lifting more? Should I be doing more? Should I be just doing this? And then it just turned into kind of like being very confused going around to like the machines and wondering like where I was. And that kind of led me into the years going forward of looking to like coaches and stuff like that. So like moving forward as the years progressed, I think I got more into researching myself because I wanted to do better there, and it actually turned into more of a hobby, and then kind of progressed from there.
I like
Yeah.
that. So when did it change into, being so consistent at the gym? Because I think for me, um, there was a point, even though we didn't know each other at the time, but like how like you see those people in the gym, like when you wake, it's like almost being in a simulation. Like when you go to the gym, at least those 10 people are there at the gym, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, we didn't know each other at the time, but like I knew you were going to be there.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we always, and especially because I used to come in early or late or whatever. My gym schedule was all over the place, but I would either see you coming off of weightlifting or hitting to a spin class or something. Like I remember. Now that like we can look back, I remember seeing you in those moments. So like when did it become a consistent habit for you?
So all right, so we go into 2015, kind of start lifting. I graduate high school, right? So now I'm working at a grocery store, and I'm pretty much starting to go a little bit as I have like the ability to, right? And I would say the year that it got pretty consistent, I always went as like a hobby afterwards because I did start taking a liking to it. I would probably say I had a group of friends that I always used to go with back in 2016, and we always used to go together. And then it kind of progressed from there. So you go from 2016 to 2017, pretty consistent. Now I'm about 2 years, a year and a half, and then I go into trade school. So that's when I feel like it really got consistent because I went into a schedule that was like, okay, so we wake up, we go to trade school, and then we get out of trade school around like a 2:30. So I'm coming from Crafton, and then I'm coming back to Turtle Creek, Morovo area, and then I'm working 5 to 10 at the grocery store, and then I'm going to the gym whenever this is pre-COVID. So LA Fitness is open until 12, and then I'm going to the gym from like 10:15 to 12 p.m. And then I'm doing that for 16 months. So I did that, and that's when it really got consistent, right? Because I started to see progress in the gym in the following years, and it was in strength, right? So I started to see like, okay, well, I'm doing a little bit more on the Stairmaster. That was my big thing. And then I'm doing a little bit more weight. And then I started to get more regimented in that. So then it just started to be like a schedule for me, right? I started to try to like learn some discipline, especially getting into trade school. I think that taught me a lot of like a growing up phase, right? Because when I was growing up, just working at the grocery store, I didn't have responsibilities. I was living at home. I didn't have no direction like after high school. Didn't know really what I wanted to do. So then when I got into like trade school, it kind of wrangled me into like a schedule and consistency, and I kind of seen that consistency piled for me, and then it started to really like take effect on my physical appearance and like also the performance inside the gym. And then we kind of went into a lot of different phases in the gym as well. Like I think from there it went into like just phases for the next like I guess all the way up until now. Like now we're just in like more of a well-rounded phase, I would say.
Like Jordan, a quick question for you. I was pretty curious about how you said you had a group of people that you would go with, like how you ended up finding those people. Like, did you just kind of fall into that community, or like what was it like in terms of, I guess, what was like your experience finding those people? And like, was it something to where I see like a lot of like high school or like young adult people come into the gym now, and I feel like some of them are like, I can see some people, like some guys like trying to bench and they're just trying to keep up with other people. But then I also see some groups where it's like they're genuinely like they're pulling up the Instagram clips and like trying to like learn and like coach each other. So like what was kind of like that group setting like for you when you were getting into your gym flow?
So I met the people that I first started going to the gym with kind of like towards the end of high school. I had a girlfriend at the time, and it was a friend of hers. And then I kind of like, they were all from Moroville. So pretty much I'm after Moroville LA Fitness. So then we all started just like going together. And it was very like, it wasn't like super serious gym because I'm more of a person that I like to go by myself as the years have progressed. And I also, just like you say in your question, I also was a person that whenever I got more into the regimented gym going, I think I was one of them people that would look up workouts right before because I wasn't ashamed of it at that point. So when it first started off, we just went to the gym as kind of like the kids that now we will say like, some people will say that they're in the way. We were just in the way kids, right? So we were like hogging up the benches and hogging up these dumbbells and laughing and joking and all around, right? And I think that's why as I grew older, I got a little bit more like focused inside the gym, right? And then I like to go by myself just because the gym started to turn to a thing that was very therapeutic to me, very stress relieving, and it kind of like opened my mind up whenever, because I'm always like on the go. I'm always thinking about a lot. So I think at the gym, I'm able to kind of like wrangle all that in, kind of just like focus on what I'm doing, and then I'll let the thoughts flow a little bit more easy. So as it went on, it went from working out with friends a lot to kind of working out by myself. And just like I said, I was never shy to the fact that I didn't know like a form, and then I lost the ego because I feel like when you're young and you're lifting and you're with friends, you get a lot of ego lifting, right? Because you want to look cool in front of this person, or you want to, like, if your boy's stronger than you, you want to be like as strong or stronger. And then me, I think I always fell into the prideful thought of, since I'm a bigger dude and my friends were small, if they were lifting, it was like kind of like one of those things I felt a little bit ashamed of that. So I always try to ego lift. But then as I grew up, it was like one of those things where it was like, all right, well, we got to focus on form more, you know? So
I like that. Can you pinpoint a specific moment where you felt as though that way of thinking harmed you?
I think it was watching others and trying to learn from others in the lifting, right? Because I would find myself pushing to a point, and then I think whenever I started to really get into the gym and really focus on, like, just like I said, form, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, well, I am not doing this exercise correctly, right? And then you start like looking up, like I was always a person that was used social media to my advantage, especially whenever the fitness creators were starting up and they were putting out a lot of good information, which they still do. It was one of those tools I used to really like hopefully help myself. And then I would look around the gym and I'm like looking around at people. I'm like, okay, well, if this exercise is supposed to be like that and that range of motion is supposed to be like that, and they're not moving it like that, it's like that would be considered ego lifting. And then I found myself kind of lifting some weights where I'm like, I can barely like get this up, let alone like rep it out, right? So I think I just started to kind of learn about form and learn about, and just like watch people, because I'm always a people watcher. I'm always observing. I'm not afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to ask for help. So it was always one of those things where it was like, okay, well, I think there wasn't a singular moment, but there was like, I guess, an era of my lifting that was like, okay, well, this is now, like, now you find yourself more of an ego lifter than an actual person who's making progress, because you're not even making progress if you're lifting too heavy and not going through like the range of motion that you should be.
So that's, first of all, I love that. I love that point as well. I feel like a lot of people, like, that takes a lot of honesty with yourself, like to even acknowledge that and then get on a track to where you can like start seeing real progress. But like, I'm curious as to like, for someone who was coming, and it sounds like you were just kind of figuring it out as you went, which I think is genuinely very hard to do. Like, what kind of things did you do, or what kind of like practical tools did you use, if any, to kind of like track your progress? Like, if there was someone else who was new to this and maneuvering it on their own, like, how would you say that like they could like structure things or like keep track of what they're doing so they can see if they're progressing, and like what kind of ways did you navigate that?
So I would say, all right, so if we fast forward a little bit, I think let's go into like 2019, I get into a lot of cardio. I think I got out of lifting and I noticed that cardio was really good, right? So then I started doing a lot of spin classes. Like spin was like my thing, right? So spin and a little bit of lifting. And then after, let's say, post COVID, to answer your question more thoroughly, was I started getting a coach, right? So then I finally surrendered into like, okay, well, I really want to take this seriously for myself, not for a competition or anything. And I really want to like progress in this, and I really want to get stronger, and I really want to see results. So me, I was always a paper guy. Like I'm always like, I like to write things down. I don't know. It's just like the old school in me. Throughout the trades, I was always an old school in that way. So I always like to just have like a notepad. So for me, I actually went on Amazon and bought a like workout like notebook, and I would pretty much get my plan from my coach. Weekly, I would do kind of like not where I would always lift for hypertrophy and progressive overload, right? So then I was always trying to, if you would write a plan where it was like, okay, so you're doing this rep range, and when this rep range feels easy, you need to go up, right? But I know you're not going from, let's say you're lifting your incline pressing 50s. Now, if you could do 10 easy on that, you're not going to 70, 80, right? Like you're going to maybe 55, 60. So I started to like keep tracking that way, just on a notebook, just week by week, of what I was doing, my rep range, what the RPE was for me in that way. And then kind of progress from there, where I would go into different workouts and do like that. I did later on kind of go to an app. Now I feel like an app, I don't know if I really love it that much. I don't know. I just like to see it, like there is a way to see it, of course, in an app, but I just like to like physically see like, okay, well, I actually did that. And I actually remember that because I wrote it down. And that's how my mind works in that way.
No, I like that, and knowing from what I know about you, you're very analytical, and in knowing that. So, I think that was a perfect way for you to find a way to remain consistent, and I think that helped you carry it over. So now knowing that about you, I can see you apply that in everything, in everything that you do. So take me to a time where you started getting into running, because I think that knowing what I just learned about you about getting into cardio, because I thought that your introduction to fitness was like powerlifting and stuff like that, or just like, because I know we talked about you getting a coach and getting into like lifting weights. How did you translate that moment of cardio into running?
All right, so we fast forward to 2023. I would say I'm one of those like throughout my fitness journey, and let's just say physical fitness journey, I've always been like a what they would say, like kind of like a yo-yo dieter, right? So I would like lose and gain and lose and gain, and over the years, like I probably lost 500 pounds, but I've also like gained, you know what I mean? Like I would lose 30, gain 30, right? Yeah. So you go to like 2023, and I have went through, at this point, 2 coaches, right? I worked out with like a bodybuilding coach, and I wasn't trying to bodybuild, but I was using him as my coach. And then I went through another bodybuilding coach, and we were on a more of like a cut, right? So a lot of the thing was like high rep, and lower weight. So you would do like a top set, then work down. So as I was doing that, I started to lose weight, right? I lost like 25 pounds. I was doing a lot of walking. At that point, I was just walking. I wasn't even doing like the stairs or nothing. And then, like I always say, my little brother started running. And this is before I even knew what like running vlogs were, or running anything was. So I never even seen people where I'm like, what is going on? Like, right. So I seen you running before, and I called you crazy, right? 100%. Like 100%. I seen you, I was like, yo, you're crazy running a marathon. Like, what are you talking about? And this is 2019. So now we're in 2023. And I think my brother just kept on nagging me to run. And I'm like, well, I'm not really having so much fun with lifting anymore. I'm trying to lose weight and I lost a little bit of strength losing weight. So now lifting isn't as like fun for me, right? At that point, I'm like, when I was 280, I was lifting really heavy, right? But now I'm at this point, I'm like 250 and I lost a lot of strength in that. And I'm lifting differently too. I'm not lifting really for hypertrophy or progressive overload. I'm more lifting more high rep. So I'm just trying to like, I guess, I know people don't love the term, but like I'm trying to like tone up, right? Like I'm not really trying to bulk up in that way. I'm eating less. I'm in a calorie deficit. So I was like, you know what? I'm not really challenging myself from what my norm is. So let me just try to do this challenge, right? And I went on vacation. I come back. I'm like, you know what? I'm investing some shoes. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about shoes, and that's crazy. Even though
Yeah,
now,
I was
right?
about to say
I know
now.
nothing about shoes.
Now, like
I
you're
know
a guru.
nothing about like a heart rate. I know nothing about anything, right? We're just going to the track. I'm going to my old high school at this point, and he's like my first coach. He's like, all right, well, we're gonna try to do a mile, but we're going to do like quarter miles, and then we're going to walk, and then we're going to do this. And he started making me a plan to kind of work up, kind of like how he taught himself to start running as well. And he was like me now, but for me, beginner me,
Okay.
right? Like he was like, all right, so we're going to do this, and we're going to work up to do a 5K, and then we're going to work up to do a 10K. So really, it was just about wanting to challenge myself after not having a challenge in fitness for, I guess at that point, probably like a year or so. And just not feeling like I always like to challenge myself with things. And especially in fitness, I kind of learned how to work hard, especially working in the trades. I think that was a big thing that it gave me, was an inkling to like what hard work actually is, going into HVAC trades and just like doing a lot of like hard labor work. And that helped me kind of get in shape as well. But it taught me like, okay, you thought you were working hard doing this, but now this is really hard work. So now those challenges come like, are few and far in between, right? Because you got to like actually push, and I actually learned how to push in that way. So that's kind of how the running started, just wanting a new challenge.
So I wonder, like, how do you feel kind of all the years before where you were kind of like laying the groundwork? How do you feel like some of those lessons that you learned with your strength, like especially as you were like lifting heavy and stuff, kind of transferred over to you being able to get into running a little bit more like fluidly?
I think it was because you learn the power of consistency, right? And how it compiles. And it's like one of those cliches that people just tell you, like, you're going to get better if you just keep on doing something, or you're not good because you never tried it, right? So like throughout lifting, I'm like, you look at the beginning of my journey and it was, all right, well, I'm weak. I don't know how to lift. I don't know what form is. I don't know what lifts are good. I think there's a power in social media, and there's also a downfall, because sometimes you just get overwhelmed with all the information that you're getting. You're like, oh, should I be doing this workout for that, or should I be doing that workout for this? And then it turns into like, now you're doing 7 different workout plans in a week, right? Like, and I've learned to kind of love one singular plan for a long time. Like, I'll do the same workouts every week for years. I mean, I just finally switched recently to a new plan after working out the same way since 2023. Wow. So it was like one of those things where now I'm like getting into more heavy lifting. So I think it was just knowing that throughout my lifting journey and throughout even like my early cardio journey, like just being more consistent and actually giving myself the chance to get better. And then that kind of like with running, it was like, oh, I'm really bad at this, but I know I can get better, because you end up getting better if you just keep on doing it. So like you never get better at anything if you just don't do it.
Wow.
So one of the coolest things I love about running, and just to piggyback off what you just said, running, and especially if you're in a marathon block, it's one of the only real things that you can really see your progression through. You can start off a running block, and I just had this conversation with my wife, because she didn't get that she could be running at a 12-minute pace from running a 15-minute pace. And I told her, I said, after 16 weeks, your body adapts and adjusts to those paces. You get more, you're as you get more consistent, you just start going, you start getting it right. And that's one thing I love about running. It's like you can actually watch yourself get better.
Yeah.
So I want to take it to when you decided to start Cool Run Club. So you started this community that is, it's so amazing to see new runners gather in one place and start their journey. You started yours with you and your brother.
Yeah.
And then now you created this community that on any given Saturday or Sunday, there's 60 to 70, 80, sometimes 90 people that show up to run 3 miles with you and the rest of the crew. So like, take me to when you started Cool Run Club. What was your thought process on starting Cool Run Club, and also like how do you feel about the club right now? So let's just start off when you started.
Okay, so we get into 2023, we start running, right? And then for me, it just started to turn into, I wanted to record myself. So I was never a social media person. I was one of those mysterious people on social media where like I post one time on my birthday and I would maybe post a story here and there, me in the gym, but I never really was posting on the timeline, right? And then I get into this thought process where I'm like, okay, so I'm looking up now I'm like into running, right? And I'm looking up how to get better at it. And then I started to look up like zones, and I started going down the rabbit hole. You know how it is. You go down the running rabbit hole, and then it gets real serious, right? So then I started to learn like, okay, well, people like record themselves running, and kind of like record their journey, and that's what it kind of turned into for me. Where it was like, all right, well, I'm gonna start making videos, like fun little videos that are just me going throughout my running journey, and just see like, kind of hold myself accountable. And also if it like turns into something, like I almost feel the pressure of being held accountable by people that may like take a liking into seeing someone start out their journey, right? So we go through that, and then I start making videos, and like I get a little bit of like local kind of attention, just like, you know, I don't have a ton of followers, but I start getting a little bit of local attention. And then I kind of start running with I do an event with P3R, so they do the events in the city. And I did the director out there of marketing, Caitlin, reached out to me for Global Running Day. So I'm starting to post on TikTok. That's where I really started, was really TikTok. Instagram was one of those, the algorithm was real weird on running. It was more like TikTok centered. And then I did Global Running Day with them. And that was the first time where it was like, okay, she asked me to come out and run and do a vlog of like the event, and I'm like, whoa, like, okay, I took off work for it. Like it was in the middle, you know, Global Running Day falls in like the middle of the week usually. So, it was like one of those things where then I started to like, okay, well, like, you know, that's pretty cool. I got asked to come to something, like, let me take off work. Let me, you know what I mean? So then as I'm working with them, I start seeing like on social media, like these things called run clubs. I'm like, whoa, hold up. I mean, like me and my friends run. Yeah. And I met you. I'm like, we run, and Chris, we all run together. So I'm like, okay, well, we all love running, and there's these things, I guess, in the cities that are run clubs. And I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. Like this is a sense of community, and you know, like post COVID, I think people are yearning for community. And especially the Black community, right? Like we all want to be together, and I think it's a real lost art of like being together, right? And kind of getting together for something that's impactful and healthy and stuff like that, right? So I started to look around the city, and I started seeing the marketing to us as well. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but I started to see like running is in the Black community is a very it's a punishment usually, right? Like you do sports and you're like, oh, I hate, like in baseball for me, it was like running to the foul pole and back. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this. Or you like do a lap around the field, or in football, you're doing like 100-yard sprints or 50-yard sprints. And in basketball, it's like suicides, right? So I seen like, okay, well, it's looked at as a punishment. And in the city of Pittsburgh, there's not like a lot of us. And I started at this point doing a lot of like ads for P3R and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, like, how do I get more people like our group? Because now we're a group, right? Like it's me, you, Chris, my little brother, and it's like, how do we like get more people to run with us? Because like this is super dope. And for me, I was always the back of the pack. So I started like that started to go in my brain where I'm like, okay, well, you guys are faster, more experienced, and I'm kind of back of the pack. So I'm like, okay, well, I started to go in my brain like, okay, let me use that. So then I started to look up run clubs, and from I would say October of 2023 to when I started it in June of 2024, I just started to brainstorm. So I still have the note. I actually send it out sometimes where it was like the note of, and I remember bringing it up to you early, and I had this note of like where, what to call it, what we would do, what the mileage would be, how we would structure it. Do we want music? Do we want that? And then pretty much it just turned into one of those things where I was like, all right, well, I never was a person to actually start something, right? I talked about this in another interview where I feel like some imposter syndrome sometimes because the me that thought of this idea or that started running is not the me now. Like I would always just wait for someone to do something like what we're doing now, right? I'd be like, okay, this is a great idea, or this is like, this could be really cool, but I'm not gonna do it, right? I'm just like, I'm not gonna do it. It's not gonna be me, like whatever. So then, I think for the next like what that would be, what, November, December, April. I think for the next 7-8 months, I started to just like brainstorm. I started to be like, yo, could we do this? Right? I remember talking to you like, yo, is this like a thing that we could like? Can we start like a community? Like, what if we? It's like, bro, what if we just do it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what if we just like we go out there, we get on social media, we start promoting it, and we just do it.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly what we did. I made the name. I was like, Cool's Run Club. I was like, I don't really want it to be like possessive, right? Like I didn't want it to be like Cool's Run Club. I wanted it to be like Cool Run Club, right? And because like I wanted to bring a new cool and like different feel to the run club scene in the city of Pittsburgh, because I seen there was clubs in the city,
Right.
and I seen who they were bringing out, and I seen where the void was, right? So I started to be like, all right, well, Cool Run Club. And then I was like, okay, well, let's not make it with a C. You know, I'm going to be the founder of it. So I was like, you know what, let's do it with a K. It'll be different, you know? And then one day we just started putting out flyers. I made a little flyer on Instagram. I started to post it. And then one day I'm like, oh, we're going to meet up. I had a cooler from my dad. You know, just my dad in the backyard had this cooler that was sitting there. I cleaned it out with some bleach. You know, it had a chip on the back of it. I filled it up with water. I thought like, okay, well, now I'm into like fueling and all that. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't really have the money to like buy like 100 gels, right? So I was like, okay, well, let's do the Go Squeezes. Remember, I was bringing the applesauce at first, and then I set a date. I was like, June 1st, we're going to do it. It was like a Sunday, and then it just kind of like from there, it just got the ball rolling where it was like, all right, now we're hosting a run club on every Sunday. I got my little crew. It's you, me, Chris, Justin. We're just coming out every day. We're promoting it. And now to see where it's at, I guess I feel about it now is just like I feel like it's grew bigger than, I mean, I remember telling people that like if we ever got 50 people, it would be like, this would be the best thing ever. Right. And this is where I want to stop. And now that we average out on like a bad day, it's like very nice. Right. So I feel about it now is like, I feel like it's growing something bigger than me and bigger than like what it was ever started for.
Yeah.
I think I see myself in a lot of people, and that's what it was originally for as well. It was like a lot of people starting out their journeys.
So here's an interesting perspective because I've been around from the beginning to where we're at now in the run club, and I think it's interesting because when I pull up, I always forget about the cooler. I forget about the Go Squeezes. I forget about the croissants. Shout out to the croissants, right?
Shout out to the croissants.
And I think it's just a testament to how you've always kept your vision the same, and now it's not you bringing a cooler. Now it's a company like Propel that's actually sponsoring the runs. So, what would you say your hardest day would be, running the run club, or in your most rewarding day with the run club?
So I think throughout the process, it was like the hardest days were believing that you were building something that was actually growing and that people were taking a liking to and that people were accepting within the community, right? Because first season, I'm working full time. I work full time job, and I was working a lot. So I worked 16. So I worked 2 to 10, and then when I 16, I worked 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. Right. So I remember this one day I worked 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. Run clubs at 9. I go home. I get home at 6:30. I wake up at 8. I pack up everything, get everything together. I come to run club and there's like 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the hardest thing, right? Is like in the early stages, you want the work that you're doing to be rewarding, right? And you're putting a lot of effort into it. And I think it's like you got to have that ego death when you're building something, and you got to like put the ego aside, and you got to know that it's a journey, right? And you got to know that you're actually building something that's worth it, and you got to keep your morals and your ethics in line with it, right? So that's the hardest day, is like having those long days at work and coming and like hoping that like it's worth it, and then not saying that like the 5 people weren't worth it, but it's just like you come and you're like, you're dead tired, you're on like 2 hours of sleep, you worked all night, and then you kind of pull up and it's like everybody who you expect to be there is just not there.
Mm-hmm.
Now the most rewarding day is like the debut, right? Yeah. So now we go through a season, or maybe even the most rewarding day is just like seeing all these, like seeing the brands and stuff come to us and just like actually like see that the concept that we're trying to build is actually worth it for them to work with us and invest in, like Propel, right? So Propel reaches out, we don't even believe them, right?
Yeah.
We're like, yo, I'm like, this is fake, dude, because I've gotten like, you get like ads, you put your email inside your bio, and then you get all these fake endorsements or these fake promotions and stuff like that, and you're like, okay, I know this is fake, like, you know. But then this one was like, okay, well, we're reaching out on Instagram. I'm like, you know, shout out to Lily, shout out to Noun. I thought she was fake, dude. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. She had like 500 followers. I'm like, there's no way they're reaching out for like Propel water. You know, and nowadays I say Propel and people are thinking I'm sponsored by the school. Yeah. I'm like, no, Propel water. I'm like, I know it's crazy. Yeah. I know it's crazy. But and then they reached out. So I think that's the most rewarding thing, is just seeing really everyone. I think also what's really rewarding about the Run Club recently is just seeing how many friendships have been built inside of it. Like not me or not like us, like the crew. It's seeing like the people that are actually coming to run build those relationships within themselves, because that's what it always was about community, which is our slogan, is bringing community together, right? So yes, it's a run club, and yes, we do run, right? But the real premise around it was to bring more community together and bring the Black community together to do something that was very healthy and impactful. I mean, we always talked before about the one of the biggest killers in our community being cardiovascular diseases and stuff like that. So we also paired it with that, where we were very aware of what our people were suffering from, and we also were aware that the community aspect was a big thing that we could really bring together. And we were healthy people, right? We love fitness, and we just kind of bridged that gap of like wanting community, knowing that our people want community, and also our love for fitness and running. And then also we kind of caught a little bit of lightning in a bottle with run clubs. I mean, we're runners, right? So we weren't going to do a lift club, but we were runners, so we did a run club. And I think that's the most rewarding thing, at least recently, has been just that.
I think you and how you like intentionally form a community to where like relationships can thrive and you can address kind of like some of the health issues that our community has and provide a way where people can tap into something that's good for them, but also like feed kind of like what they need is people, kind of like their soul, the connection in the community. So what are some ways or like some big kind of values that you feel sets your club apart and like really instills that community feel? Like what are some ways you've put things together to where people come to your run club and know that like this is a place for them to not just do better for their health, but like really kind of connect on like a meaningful level?
So I think we've always done things a little bit different than what I see. I think in the beginning, I also took a lot of pieces from different run clubs that I was researching, right? Like I did a lot of research on different clubs, whether it was ARC, NGU down in North Carolina, et cetera, right? And I seen that a lot of the run clubs that we have here are very serious. They're running 3 to 6 to 10 miles, right? But I think what we always did was the way that we kind of instilled a good time around it is that we're like, okay, bro, now we got to get music here, right? We got to get music that our people listen to, that we all listen to, right? So we're not shy to like have our playlist and put on some stuff, right? And I think it was that, and it was like the laid backness, right? So nowadays I kind of explain a run club as like a social run club, right? And yeah, people have started here and now have ran marathons, right? And some people are here because this is their cardio for the week, or this is their therapy for the week, or this is their way to see people that look like them and hang out in a space that's outside of work. Maybe they're not drinkers, maybe they're not this, that, and the third, but they come here and now they're like, okay, well, I see people like me out here having fun, kind of some guys is putting together something good, nice for the community. And I think that was always something that we always did right? We stayed on our morals. We always worked with companies that align with us, and that actually had good plans. I mean, a lot of this stuff I thought last year we're predominantly women, and we did a couple like Pilates classes last year. So it was something that like also was incentivized, right? Because our people, right? I think that our people in the run club, they're a little bit, they like a little bit of incentives, right? They like to come out and have a little bit of something extra, right? They love when I do something a little bit extra for them. So I always thought in mind where I'm like, all right, so if we're working with this people, let's do shoe demos to introduce them to shoes or a way of running that might be different for them. They're coming in like no shade to none of our people, but some of our people are coming in like Jordans, flat-footed shoes. They're coming in some shoes they seen on TikTok Shop, and it's like, okay, well let me get this company in, show you a shoe, even if it's not the one that you like. Let me show you something that can make running better, because maybe you hate running, but maybe you're not. Maybe you got the wrong shoe, or maybe you're just kind of going at it a wrong way. So I think that was something that we always did, was we gave incentives. We always were really giving. I think that's one thing of our club too. We're really giving. We always doing giveaways. We try to do this. I think we always just gave back, and I think that's a big thing for us.
So one of the biggest things for me is just like, how do you stay grounded when you do have those big companies approaching you and it doesn't align with your mission? So for example, we have a lot of novice runners. We have a lot of people who never ran a day in their lives. And like you said, when they come, we do these shoe demos and we're like, this is going to help you, and you don't even know. You, like you said, you might say, I don't like running, but the reality is you just don't have the right shoe to run in. You're experiencing pain because you're running in a weightlifting shoe and not a running shoe. So how do you stay grounded when a company approaches you and they don't align with your mission?
I think we ran into that a little bit this year, right? Because I think when we first started the club, right, there was things that that I wanted personally the club to never be like around, right? Like I didn't want us to really be a club that was drinks. I never really wanted us to start like a beer distributor. And also I never wanted to be like super datey either. That was one thing I kind of prefaced where it was like, I don't want us to be like a flirty run club, right? That was a lot of like, I think that's a lot of the reason why like we have this slow burn on our social media is because we don't kind of go into the trends of like all the dating scene stuff, right? Like put on this armband. So I think to stay grounded is just knowing to stay in our ethics and our morals and like what our mission is behind the run club, right? Because it is cool to like do something fun, right? Like it's like, okay, so we had a company reach out to us. They were a electrolyte alcohol brand, and I mean, I'm like the happy, nice guy of the group, right? Like all of y'all, like my admin are very like, no, we're not doing this, right? Like, you know, Whitney and Deanna, they'll straight up tell me like, no, right? And I think that's where we went. Not to say that I was like gung-ho on doing it, but it was one of those things where it was like, all right, well, this could be like cool, like if y'all would want to do it. And they're just like, no. So I think staying grounded is having a good team around me. I really always try to emphasize that like it is me, of course, like I'm the founder of the run club, but like I'm nothing without the team that I surrounded myself with. And we had turnover with the team, and I feel like we're really locked into a really good team. And I think that's why we make so much progress throughout this last year, because we finally like honed in on a good team. I got everybody kind of in a slot that where they like to be, not where it's like, all right, you do this, you do that, but like, all right, what's your strengths and what do I see your strengths are? Now we can put you in there, and that just kind of like helps me out, helps the club out, helps the flow of everything out, and I think that's a really, really big deal when you're trying to stay grounded, is like having that team, because you can all, I mean, there's times where I've gotten a big head, you know what I mean, working with these companies, but I've always tried to stay like humble in the mission of the run club, and I think that's what kind of keeps me a lot grounded.
Wow, man, that's incredible.
Yeah.
How have you grown as a leader when it comes to run club? You know, I think that it's a lot different when you know, I think it's a scaling thing when you're, you know, it's a gift and a curse. So 5 people show up and you got 2 people on your admin. Although it might not be what you want, it's easier to kind of control the experience.
Yeah.
At this point, you're operating at scale. You have a team of 4, but you also have 70 to 80 people showing up at any given moment, so that so now you have to be a different leader, because you're controlling the experience or guiding the people on your team to control an experience of upwards of 100 people at any given time, or a good sunny day it can be 120. So how have you grown as a leader in that aspect?
So I think it was hard for me to be a leader at first, because I've never led anything, right? Like I've never been a boss at work. I've always been, I'm an employee, right? So I never really led anything. I was never like a captain on a team. So I think at the very beginning it was hard for me, and I always look to you because you've led a lot of things in your life. You've started companies and stuff like that, and I feel like you've been in leadership positions before. So I always like kind of like looked at your stoicness in a way that you lead and try to work from there. So I think in the beginning I was real frantic and really didn't know how to verbally word things well, right? Like I would come off very strong and I really I do want things a certain way, and I am sort of a perfectionist. I don't want to say I'm like all the way, but I do like things a certain way, right? But there's always a way to kind of address that, and I feel like I wasn't always the best at just wording things the right way to where, and also kind of learning people's personalities and being able to lead them in the way that they need to be led, right? So I think throughout the process, it was just trying to always put myself in the other shoes and also relinquish some of the, like, I guess, leadership to people, right? Like
Delegate.
yeah, like delegate task and stuff like that. Like Deanna, right? So I love Deanna, and I call her like the curator of the run club, right? Because now Deanna started off with us as a first time runner, right? Like never ran in her life, always in the back of the pack. And I always prided myself in the run club with running with the last person and finishing with the last person, because when we started running together, I was the last person that they were always faster than me. So I was always like, well, let me make the last runner feel special, because like I always want them to know that we're not leaving them, even though they're in the back of the pack, they're still a runner, right? So Deanna starts with us. She's always in the back of the pack. And now she's like everybody's favorite, right? Like she just ran her first marathon, right? And it's one of those things where, like, when I lead at the run club nowadays, it's like I always try to be like the real silly one there, because I want people to know that I think running is a very vulnerable thing, and I think showing up to something by yourself, where she showed up, Deanna used to show up by herself, is a very vulnerable thing, right? You never done something before, you're probably bad at it. We've all been bad at it, and it's a way to kind of relinquish that vulnerability and tell people like, all right, well, you might be scared to be here, right? And you might not know anybody, but now you know me, and I'm making a complete ass out of myself, and I'm on the microphone and I'm screaming, I'm singing the songs, and it's just the kind of, you know, how some people get in a realm where they're like, they get in a room and they just feel like everybody's watching them. I try to take that away, where it's like, you're not being watched. Like, put the onus on me, everybody laughing at me, not laughing with me, laughing at me. And what I love about Deanna is that kind of she has taken it upon herself to be everybody's friend there too. So now, like, relinquishing those and delegating those roles, it kind of has made me a better leader, because I'm able to kind of not spread myself as thin, and I feel like everything's on my back to do. And just like I said, like, shout out to the team, man. They just helped me so much to be able to be a better leader. You know what I mean? It's easier to lead when people want led as well. Like, I remember we had a conversation kind of over the off season where it was like y'all were kind of like, I'm asking y'all about a lot of stuff, right? And y'all are just like, yo, just like, tell us what you want to do, and we'll tell you when we don't think it's good. Like, we'll tell you, like, if it's a bad idea, we'll tell you, but like, just tell us what you want us to do and we'll do it. And then that was kind of like, that's when the light bulb went off, where it was like, okay, like, I'm not coming off as like arrogant or demanding. They just don't want to be not in the know whenever I'm trying to do something. So that's it's all about the team, I think, around you.
100%.
Yeah, I just got one question. Is like, what's next for Cool Run Club?
I think that's a big question, right? I think for right now, I think we're in the realm of like still building, right? I think this season we were about to jump the gun on something that I did really want to do, and I think me and Darnell talked about it. We really did want to do it, but I just wanted to set the groundwork just one more year. I think for us, it's about becoming a charitable foundation. I really want to become like, we do a lot of charity work. We've done a lot of charity work in the past. We've done Coach for Kids. We raised money for autism and HIE last year, and we also did 150 shoes for the youth and youth places last year. So I really, really loved our events when our community's giving back, because I feel like it brings you more together. So I think for us, it's just becoming more of a charitable organization and also putting on our own race. I think that's the thing that we've been trying to keep under wraps, and I hate keeping it under wraps, but I really want to do I really want to host our own race, and I really just want that to be like an annual thing. And I think as long as we lay like more good groundwork, that can be like the next step for us, and really just blowing that up and just becoming like a staple within the city.
No, I think that would be an amazing thing. So let's talk a little bit about your journey in because at the same time running this running club, you're also running marathons.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it didn't just stop with you go into the gym and then you starting to run it and then starting a run club, it's you're actually training as well. And most of the times, what we don't talk about is how sometimes when you have a run club and then you also have to get some mileage afterwards or before, or have to switch up your day and do your long run on Saturday versus Sunday. As well as bringing people along on that journey with you, whether it's Deanna when she started running with you, Whitney when she started running with you, and then myself, and then Gabby. You've had this impact on a lot of people by just running. So walk me through how you have time for yourself. How do you recharge and get back centered with yourself with doing all of these endeavors? I know it's hard to be a leader. It's hard to be, also inspiring everybody around you. How do you gain your inspiration and recover to be who you need to be for yourself?
I think for me, I'm a very routine person. So like throughout the week, I'm very much like wake up, get the puppy together, go to the gym, go to work. And that's kind of like my routine, right? I work 2 to 10, so it doesn't leave me a lot of time. I kind of do everything in the morning. It works for me. But I think personally, the run club kind of recharges me, really. I've always said that throughout the process. Like, yeah, it's very, like throughout the week, I think that like it's almost like how they explain marathon training, right? In a marathon, where the train is the hard part and the race is like the celebration. And I feel like the work to put in to get the run club to where it's supposed to be whenever the day comes is the hard part, right? Like that, and then I recharge there. So I think it's all about a balance of things. Like, yeah, like sometimes it gets hard with training and trying to do it. I think I've done a good job of like in our off season kind of doing most of my training there. I think that's been I haven't really done like a big block during like the run club season, because I think that's also something that I learned is having those seasons, right? And like knowing what season you're in. So like when I'm in training season, and I do run the run club, but like we're in off season. Right. It's more of like a social thing through our Halo. But then when we're in run club season, I like to have fun with it. Yeah. I like to run for fun. I think that's how I recharge, is knowing what season I'm in when I'm in it, right? And having a better job of like just noticing that and actually like staying in it, like not over exuding myself where I'm like, all right, well now I'm trying to run a marathon and do all the run club stuff and hold all these meetings with people and talk to this person. So, and then when the run club day comes, man, I just let loose. I'm always goofy at run club. So that's kind of like my recharge, like, yeah, showing up and all that and setting up. I got it down to a science now, and being that like I actually don't procrastinate as much anymore, and I try to address things when they're supposed to be addressed. It gives me a lot more like sanity to actually do all the things that I do for it.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's good. I think we all need something to just recharge at any given moment, because although we're doing all of these things, there's still a sub genre of other things that we're doing that's taking our attention away. I think this podcast was really good. It gave me an introspective on you, and I think that's one common theme that we've been having. I think, for me, it's so rewarding to be around people and then be in a podcast setting, because I'm learning more. Like we had a million conversations, and I feel like I've learned a lot more about you through this conversation. We're gonna end this. We're just gonna end this podcast off of here. But I wanted to ask Jordan one question. Jordan, why do you think fitness is an art and not a science?
That's a good question. I think it's an art because of the lanes that you can go in all with fitness. I feel like you interpret it the way that you do individually, right? So just like art, right? Like someone can look at a painting and not see what the value in it or what it means, right? But another person can see that it is amazing and it speaks to them, right? And I think fitness has that impact on everybody, where we're runners, right? And we love running, but also like some people hate running, and that's just a perspective on it. And I love lifting too, right? And I see the perspective on lifting. I see where it can help. And some people like fitness classes, and some people like Pilates. So I feel like it's always just a perception that you have on what you're doing and in a season that you're doing it in. And I think that's just like art, right? Like you can always see the beauty in something. So you can always see the beauty in a journey. You can always see the beauty in what you're doing and how you're doing it. And yeah, I mean, there's science behind it, but always keep it fun, always keep it enjoyable, and that's how you're going to make progress, right? Like the science doesn't matter if you aren't enjoying it, because then you're not going to do it. So I think that's it.
I agree. And that's a perfect way to end this podcast. As always, I'm Clutch. This is Mac, and we're out of here. Peace.